Hey, Paulina and Carrie, y'all have the link up on that computer correct already for the software? I'm sorry, y'all are muted.
Yeah, we're pulling it up now.
Hey Tia,
Okay. Yeah.
even if I have it pulled up right now and then I log in, it's gonna probably sign me out after some inactivity time. So there's still going to be like a few moments of that being up.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. Just as long as we have the link up.
Okay.
Okay. And it is now 12 o'clock. So y'all may call the order to meet, call order to meeting.
Tia, we do not quite have,
Quorum?
we don't have a quorum yet.
Is it 5 there?
We have 5 here, quorum is 6. And we have 2.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Well, sorry. Robin was on and logged off.
Yep.
She's like coming back on and then she logged back off. Okay, so we're waiting on her again. Hey, Robin, can you hear us?
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Okay, I'm in the middle of Bandelier National Park. I'm trying to find a better signal.
Okay. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Okay, Dr. Cox, we have a quorum.
I'd like to call the meeting to order. At this time, we will begin with item number 3, public comment. Our address the board with regard to matters on the agenda will be read and or received at this time. Were there any comments submitted?
We have no one signed up for public comment, and just a heads up, y'all do sound a little choppy. Y'all might need to speak up.
Okay.
Anyone signed up to provide verbal comments?
No, sir.
At this time, we will close public comment and move to item number 4, workshop. Item A, review of and discussion on the strategy to manage and fill vacancies within the Animal Services Division. Turning it over to Stacy.
And Tia, are you turning over access to the slide presentation to us, or are you handling it?
Yes. You should see the sub button. Click the mouse.
Okay, so as we've talked at our previous meetings, federal action into support animal services. With one of them being temporary personnel that were brought into the shelter, 2 kennel technicians and a part-time receptionist. We did talk to you last meeting about extending these positions. And so they have now been extended through September. We had also mentioned that we were working on bringing in some additional kennel technicians through temporary help. We have secured funding for an additional 4 temporary kennel technicians that again are also authorized through September. So recruitment is underway with the temp agency at this time. Next. One of the things that has been also very helpful, we have some Fort Bend County interns working with the city. It's about an 8-week program, and we've been able to utilize some of them at the animal shelter, which has also helped us tremendously. It's a program through the Texas Workforce Commission grant in partnership with Fort Bend County, and then Fort Bend County works with their jurisdictions to allow us to utilize those interns as well. So again, that is funded through the grant through Fort Bend County, and they will be here with us at 6. Just a reminder on the vacancies and the status of those vacancies that we currently have. We have an animal services officer, which is a position that was vacant due to an internal promotion. The position advertisement did close last week, and staff is reviewing those applications now. We also have a kennel technician position that became vacant due to an internal promotion again. And that position has been filled effective July 12th. There's also a part-time kennel technician position that's been funded and authorized for animal services recruitment. Again, that position as well was advertisement closed last week, and we're reviewing applications for that. And then the animal services manager position, and I'll go ahead on the next slides and provide an update on that position. As we reviewed in our last meeting, the position announcement or job advertisement for the animal services manager was released in June. With review of applications to be completed by the recruitment firm, with the first review to begin on June 1st and the second review to begin July 9th. Conducting those interviews and has referred 4 applications or applicants to the city for interviews at this point. So one of the things we want to talk to you a little bit more today about is that first round interview process. We had initially talked with the board about including the board chair in the final interview selection, but in looking at the first round interviews, a process that we have been utilizing very recently for some of our positions has been very effective. I'm going to go through kind of what that looks like, and if you have any specific questions on that process, we have Paula Pitchka, our HR director, here as well. She can help me in answering any of those interview type specific questions. So what we've done is like that first round interview, it's done virtually. We set up different rooms, the virtual rooms, and have different groups in those rooms, and the candidates go through each of the different groups, like typically within a day's time. So what we put in here is a 5-room interview. So each candidate would go through the 5 rooms. There's different people in each room looking at different things. We would have one room where it would be a standard interview panel where we would ask interview questions. There would be one where the applicant is asked to make a presentation. There would be Q&A after that. We would have one where animal services staff, the direct reports, would be in a room and do a meet and greet. And then we would look for the animal advisory board to also participate in a meet and greet. And then city staff would have a meet and greet because this position also works with different departments across the organization. So we would look for this to begin in late July. Go ahead and then I'll come back. And then we would take the results from that process The applicant selected through that first round interview process would then move to the final round interview, where, as we mentioned before, our board chair would participate in that interview panel. And one of the things that we had heard from you was that you wanted to know, when would you be able to meet and, talk to them. So this actually would allow that opportunity in order to limit the size of the room and limit quorum of the board. We would ask that we limit it to a maximum of 5 board members, which we would exclude myself because I would probably be involved in a different portion. Since Dr. Cox is our board chair, would be participating in final round, it may be beneficial to allow another board member to participate in this the first round process. But today we kind of wanted to get your feedback as to if any of you would be interested in participating in that group, and which 5 of you would be interested. And I think that is
I would.
it.
But I mean, if there's someone that's desperate, I know Barb's been on the board for a long time, so.
How many do we have? How many?
So there's Robin,
Wanted to.
Marion wanted to.
But we could swap out, since we're both shelter volunteers. I think it would be good, since we're at the shelter, to have someone who's on the board and also at the shelter as a volunteer. Because the volunteers wouldn't be covered anywhere else, right?
No.
Robin did think she wanted to. Yeah, but she's a receptionist and not so much with the animals.
Okay, and so Barbara. How many do we have?
No,
Marion, you got
no, we've got,
Robin, Marion, me, Susie, and Barbara. That's 5.
Okay, and I know Jenna had been the one asking the questions as well as to when the board have an opportunity. I know she was trying to attend virtually today. She hasn't been able to join yet.
Basically, I'll back off if needed. I'll be happy to back off to get her in. She said Jenna needs to.
Well, I mean, she had asked a question, but I
She
don't
had
know.
indicated that she would be interested in something like that, but.
We have,
Or I'll be happy to back off. You, I mean, okay,
I think,
whatever.
so we have 5.
As long as I have her. Okay.
Do y'all have any additional questions about the information provided? Otherwise, we'll.
I have a question.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
when you said 4 have been referred to the city, is that the end, or the position is still open and we could get possibly more referred?
Paula, do you want to give an update?
Sure. So the application's second review was to begin on the 9th, which Indiana County, that was last Friday. So it's not, they're not just reviewing the resumes, they're actually contacting them and doing kind of like a phone interview and screening at a higher level. So we have not gotten, it takes about a week to get through. So we may be getting some additional ones referred to us, which is why, which is why Stacy indicated that we will be scheduling those interviews for late July. Because we need to see if any additional get referred from the second round. The posting will stay up at least through the end of July, with the idea that if we go through this process and we don't feel we have a viable candidate to move to finalist, we can keep looking at that, and we can change we can post a next review date sometime in August. But at the end of July, we will have completed at least the first round. And if we feel we have a viable candidate or candidates that can move to the first round, then we would close because we feel like we are in a position to eventually make an offer.
Thank you for allowing us more input. We appreciate it, I'm sure. So thank you.
So the one thing that I was going to add to it is, I think prior to Paula will probably reach out to the group and talking about the do's and don'ts, and those types of things prior to. So Paula will be in more contact with.
Yes, and as Stacey's saying, this is a very intense process. We have done this through COVID with some of our high-level positions, managers, assistant directors, those types of positions. And this is not for the faint of heart. So it will be a grueling day. It is very difficult for the candidates. It is very difficult for the people going through the process on the panel. Because it is a lot of action. Right now with 4, you're looking at least the better part of half a day, maybe a little bit more, maybe some before lunch, some after lunch. If we have additional candidates, you're looking, think of it as speed dating. Yeah, so it's grueling. You're going to be talking to a lot of people, having a lot of different conversations, and you're going to have to pay attention and stay focused. But of course, you are part of an interview panel. So EEOC guidelines and state and other federal laws have a list of restrictions upon them as far as what can be discussed during the interview. So we will schedule some time prior to that day of interviews with the panel. And it might be a good idea that we have alternates in place, an alternate or 2 in case last minute conflict comes up. So for instance, you offer to bow out. If you are an alternate and someone has a conflict arise at the last minute, we can call on you to serve on the panel and still have your 5 members hearing the interactions.
I'll be the ultimate. Yeah.
Um,
No, I will.
But
Because I think it's
Can I say something in a minute?
yes, ma'am. I'll wrap up. So it is important that you understand what the rules are for interviewing, because we don't want someone to misspeak, even though you're not on the panel asking the specified questions. You have input into the situation, into the decision-making process, so you have to abide by those rules. So we'll be talking about that more soon.
Are we getting national
Yes.
applications?
Yes, we have a number of applicants from across the state, but some that are across the country, even as far as Alaska.
Robin, you said you had a question?
Robin,
Oh, yes, hi. Oh, good. I want to know, out of the people who are volunteering to do the interview process, have been involved in interview processes in their previous lifetime.
I have. This is Barbara. I have.
Yeah, I figured you have. Barbara, I had a staff 2 offices of 200 people, so I've had a little background in that. But I'm just, I'm not saying that's the end all, but it would also help the interview process of people who have actually done hiring interviews.
Well, when we do our pre-day training, we'll call it training, whether you've done this 100 times or 5 times, whether you've done it within the last 6 months or it was 16 years ago, we will help you feel comfortable going through the process and help answer any questions you have as a panel. So don't feel like you have to be a professional at this to do it. We work with employees at all levels doing this all the time. So we'll help give you that level of comfort going into the process. That's a great point, Robin. Thank you for making that.
are there any more questions? Okay. Now we'll move to item B, review of and discussion on the 87th section of the Texas Legislature regarding associated animal services bills and impacts to the Animal Services Division. I'm going to turn it over to Nicole.
Well, actually, Rick will be giving the presentation and then I'll be assisting Rick if there are any follow-up questions.
Okay.
So, this is Rick Ramirez. He's our intergovernmental relations manager.
So you can go to the next slide now to explain what the Office of IGR is, what we do, and our role when we go to Austin. So our major, the major component of what the Office of Intergovernmental Relations does is we educate policymakers on how city government works. Lawmakers come from every background you can think of, and most of them are not from city government. There are only just a few that have been mayors or that sort of thing, but very, very few have actually been city employees. So it's our role to be able to go educate them and have them understand the impacts and implications of any law that is passed during the session. Next slide. So as you can see, cities have quite a few bills that are that would impact them during the legislative session. Out of all of different types of entities in the legislature that are impacted by the legislature, cities are impacted by more legislation than any other group. That's because we have impact on almost everything that you do all day. And that includes animal services as well. In the 87th session, in the regular session, I'll be talking about a little bit about the special session in a little bit further, but during the 87th session, there were 2,200 city-related bills introduced. There were 200, or roughly around 250 bills that were passed that were city-related. Our job is to be able to go through every single one of those 2,000 bills and determine the impact, and then speak with legislators if there is a particular bill that would impact our city services. So community advocacy gives our community a voice. We elect our elected representatives to sit on city council. We also have people on boards and commissions, and those people represent their constituents. And so our job as the IGR office and as a city government is to take that voice and bring it to Austin. Slide. So we have some kind of guiding principles. First off, we want to make sure that we protect our community. We want to advance the principle of local control. We want to oppose any preemption from the state that dictates how the cities run their local city governments. And we want to oppose any threats to our ability to be responsive to our citizens. Next slide. This is kind of a map on how we get to our legislative agenda. So we start off with our departments. We talk to them. We talk about what are some of the community implications and business considerations for topics that are going to be discussed during the legislative session. We gather all that information. We develop some preliminary position statements on different types of bills. This year, we had a legislative task force, which was made up of members from boards and commissions who would take a look at our proposed agenda and give us some input from the citizen perspective on our legislative agenda. We also have an IGR committee who's made up of 3 members from City Council. They take that information from the legislative task force and also from the community and business considerations. They help develop a legislative agenda that we bring to City Council. City Council reviews that in public in an open meeting, and they vote on the bill, and then it is up to the IGR office in coordination with all the rest of the city departments to go and implement that legislative agenda and ensure that our legislators know what their bills are doing. Next slide. This is your leadership at the legislature right now. We have Governor Abbott, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, Speaker Dave Phelan, and the Comptroller Glenn Hager, who is actually from Fort Bend County. Go on to the next one. This is our Sugarland delegation. We have two senators, Senator Joan Huffman, who represents a lot of the western part of Houston and also Fort Bend County. We also have Lois Colforce, who has a little bit of us, but her district goes all the way down to Corpus Christi and then out to around Victoria. She has one of the largest Senate districts at the state legislature. We also have Representative J.C. Jaton, who represents the majority of Sugarland. We have Representative Ron Reynolds, who represents a little bit more of the business park area. We have Phil Stevenson on the west. Actually, Gary Gates is not technically one of our representatives, but we've had a great relationship with that office that we continue to consider him part of our delegation. So every session starts with the governor announcing what his emergency items are. I'm not going to go through these in detail, but the green here are the bills that passed. So they did have a broadband bill that passed. They had enforcement, law enforcement budgets. Those were also in there as well. We had some COVID-related bills, ERCOT reform, and winterization of power generators. That is kind of half and half. There's still some work that needs to be done. And when I say power generators, by the way, I'm talking about people who make power, not generators that you have in your backyard. But we'll go into the next slide. And I'll talk about this special session that we're in now. So top priorities for the governor are bail reform, election integrity, border security, freedom of speech and social media. Article 10 of the Texas Constitution, which is paying the legislature's staff, critical race theory, and much more. You probably have seen in the news that the legislature is kind of at a pause right now, and it's all because of election integrity. Next slide. There are going to be a guaranteed future special sessions as well. Anticipating those to happen sometime in September to November, pretty sure. And those will have to do with redistricting. It's required by the Constitution to be able to redraw those lines. There's also going to be probably on that call, we'll have federal funds and probably anything else that was not tackled in this special session. Go to the next one. I'm not going to go too much into the budget. I'll keep this here for posterity, and you all can review that later. But the budget is the one bill that the legislature is required to pass in the 140-day session. Every other bill they can do without, except for the redistricting bill. But that's the only bill that they need to pass. So you saw the 2,000 bills that we do. That's all just extra stuff that we work on in addition to the budget. Next slide. So I'm going to talk about animal-related bills, the bills that y'all are concerned about. Go to the next slide. So as far as bills that passed, House Bill 3340 passed. And basically what this bill does is that if there is an order to destroy a dog that is considered to be a dangerous dog, it has to be stayed for a period of 10 days if the owner files for an appeal to reconsider that dog as being dangerous or not. The court cannot order the destruction of a dog during the pendency of that appeal time. So that is a bill that is going to be effective in September. It's a new law, and so we have coordinated with the municipal court, and we have all our departments ready to comply with it. Next. And that was it, by the way. That was it on the kind of animal-related bills that passed. I'm going to talk about two bills that failed. One of these bills you probably are familiar with, the next bill. This is the hashtag Abbott Hates Dogs bill. And so this was Senate Bill 474. Governor Abbott vetoed this bill. It would have made it illegal to chain up dogs and leave them without drinkable water, adequate shade or shelter, and would have banned tethering dogs with heavy chains. Governor Abbott did veto the bill and had said that we already have statutes in place to protect dogs from animal cruelty, and he thought that the penalties that were proposed in this bill seemed excessive. That earned him the hashtag that y'all are probably all familiar with, Abbott hates dogs. Next slide. Okay. This bill, the city of Sugar Land did work with Representative Paul on this one. It did not pass, but it's House Bill 652. This bill would have required an animal shelter to provide special notice to those adopting shelter animals of any epizootic infectious disease occurring among the animals in a shelter within a 15-day period. So 15 days prior to the adoption and 15 days after the adoption. This would have actually had a lot of administrative costs associated with this. We had to come up with some kind of a database to figure out when dogs came in, when there was a dog that had a certain infectious disease. Our main problem with this bill was that the definition of what an epizootic disease included diseases such as kennel cough, which, that happens quite regularly. And those dogs are already put off the site and quarantined from the other dogs. And if we had to do this, we would have to be sending notices all the time. What was, what we were really opposed to is that this was not applied to everybody. This was only applied to shelter dogs or shelter animals. It didn't apply to rescuers, rescue groups. It didn't apply to breeders, which would have made shelter animals seem a lot less attractive for people who were looking to get a dog. And it would have given shelter animals a bad name. We worked with Representative Paul on this bill to try to change the definition of an epizootic disease and say that you really only need to do this if there was a transfer of bodily fluids from one dog to another. If he had rabies and he bit another dog, we already do that kind of notification. But this would have codified that law. The change he did kind of make that change, but he included kennel cough at the very end. The bill didn't make it across the finish line, and so it will probably be back next session.
So epizootic diseases would have also included things like roundworm, worms. I mean, these are things that are not uncommon in our shelter. We bring in dogs off of the street and we have no idea what sort of medical history they have. So it's not uncommon for us to diagnose these stray animals with some sort of epizootic disease. So based on this definition, we would have had to, anyone who either adopted from us or brought in their animal for us to transfer for, their spay neuter appointments, they would have had to be notified that a cat came in with roundworm. And so that would have had to have been done every time there was an incident in the shelter.
And again, this was only for shelter animals. It didn't apply to breeders, it didn't apply to rescue groups. And so in that case, it really didn't improve public health across the board. If it was really about public health, it would have been done across the board.
Or vets, because sometimes you bring an animal home that's been at the vet and they come home with kennel cough. So
That's
they
right.
can get it at the vet.
Exactly. So you go to the next slide. I think that's it. That was pretty much the extent of animal related bills. There were obviously many other bills that were filed. But we wanted to highlight just the top bills, the ones that were the most important, that had the most momentum. Many bills don't, I'll tell you right now, 20% of bills that are filed don't ever get past the finish line. So
Are they going to try to do something to push the Abbott hates dog bill again through in some way?
definitely not during a special session,
Right.
but it will come back next session. Abbott is, so the governor is the one who sets the agenda for a special session. So if he vetoed a bill, unlikely he's going to bring it back to be discussed. It's different from a regular session where anybody can file any bill and they all get a hearing and all that. The only bills that get a hearing during a special session are bills that are on the governor's call. Any other questions?
Maybe how often?
So the legislature, good question. The legislature meets every 2 years on even numbered years for 140 days.
2 years.
Yes. Any other questions? Thank you all very much for having me.
Thank you. Now we will move on to item C, review of and discussion on the city's transition and implementation to a new volunteer software program. Carrie and Pauline.
So in 2010, the city developed or took over a volunteer database. Oh, speak up. I'm sorry. I usually don't have that problem. But... So I'm gonna
Carrie, sorry to interrupt. Can you speak up like a tad bit?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Carrie Paxton Lamke, I'm a community engagement manager for the city of Sugar Land. Within my department, we have the Serve Sugar Land volunteer program. Some of you have probably received my emails when I was managing the boards and commissions program. So it's good to see you all in person. We are in the process of implementing a new volunteer software. Now, the current software that we have right now is called BSIS. As the city implemented that for the first time in 2010. So now for over 10 years, we've had that software tracking hours and setting schedules. In the last year, Paulina and I have researched and gone through demos to try to find a better software that is more user-friendly, more intuitive, and is just, quite frankly, faster and more up-to-date. In mid-2020, we started, Paulina and I, meeting with the volunteer liaisons in each department, Stacy and Nicole for animal services, and asking their opinions and going through the demos and providing the different examples of the softwares that we found. We included the stakeholders in each of those demos. Next slide, please. Next slide, please, Tia.
Is this the correct slide or is it before?
No, it's on the correct slide. Thank you. Now, we also went through a process with our IT department to review the technical requirements for the software so that we were sure that we were covering all of our bases and finding exactly what we are needing and understanding the functionalities from the IT perspective. And this, again, is going to provide a better user experience for the volunteers and just also as admins, a better process for tracking hours and creating reports and schedules and other things that we are using in the software itself. You all may have received an email yesterday. You should have, for those of you who are in our volunteer system, that the software that we have selected is called Better Impact. It is scheduled to launch August 16th, and we will send out information to you all in early August with instructions, and then later that month we will provide training. Now, in the meantime, we have a temporary sign-up mechanism called Sign Up Genius, which will help animal services volunteers specifically go in and sign up for jobs. Now, the calendar has been updated through early August, so that if you had already signed up for something, say in April, and you scheduled it in July, it should be there. If you're seeing something that is missing or doesn't look correct, please email me and I can help you go through that. But so we have that temporary platform for about a month, and then we will transition to Better Impact. Now I'm going to hand this over to Paulina. Paulina is the community engagement coordinator. She's the city's volunteer, the lead on the volunteer program, and has been the lead in putting together the development of the new software.
Tia? Tia,
Yes,
are
yes,
you see the additional webpage? Do we need to share the screen?
yes, share screen.
Right under that window that you moved. Can you see the?
Okay. Yes, we can see it now.
If I grab this one, would it read it from the other side? Oh, there it is. Okay. Oh, hi again. My name is Paulina. I want to show you the back end of the new software, which is called Better Impact, like Carrie was saying. This is only for you to know everything that goes on, from the admin side. Of course, those of you who are registered volunteers will only have access to it from the volunteer side. But this is how I get to where I want to show you, and so it's still good for you to see it through here. So this is how it looks, how the animal services page will look like. Now keep in mind, this is still being built. So the messages, templates, emails, the shifts, and all of that is still being entered into here. But what I wanted to show you, and it's very simple really right now, this is how it would look like when you're a volunteer. So this is your page. This is where you would see the opportunities that are listed. You would see your own schedule. You would be able to see the hours that you have entered. You can filter by different things, by activity, by dates. Your opportunities will be listed here either on the calendar or a list. And under the home, this public opportunities box right here will show you everything that we have available citywide for volunteer opportunities. But then under here, under animal services, you would see specifically for animal services what's on there. And these opportunities here are just like wanted ads. It doesn't mean that you'll see every single shift listed on there, but it'll have a little wanted ad for dog walkers, or it'll have a wanted ad for reception, and like a short description of what the shift or what the activity is. So you can click on it, see if you like it. Then if you do, you go up. You go into this button that's disappearing to actually sign up for those. So you have like the mission statement from the shelter. You will be able to connect to the Facebook page. Oh, I'm sorry, it was under here. So we need to add like this section here for animal services and different things. Welcome messages, and things like that. So this is how it will look like from your side once you're logged in. And this is the page that you'll see when you still haven't signed in, which is the landing page that we have now, where you see the news section, and then you see a calendar underneath. That's this page. This is how it looks like now. Like I said, again, it's still being built, so no messages or anything is on there, but that is the, when you get here, myimpactpage.com/login, this is where you enter your username and password. And by the way, it's gonna be the same one, your same username, the same email. It'll work for this as well. You can of course choose your password at any time, but it should, the same login or username should work for you as well. So this is how it looks like. And if you want to go back, Tia, to the slides, just that I can talk.
Stop sharing.
Oh,
I think you can stop sharing.
And I think you're gonna have to show the slides to you.
Need to get back on the slideshow. Okay.
just have a few more points to walk you through. If you go to the training slide. Right. Like Carrie mentioned, prior to the launch, we will send out logging information to all of our volunteer database, all of our active volunteers. So this email would include login instructions and resources, and this includes how-to videos and help articles. It's very comprehensive, the help and resources library that we have access to. Then later in late August, we are planning on offering any training to volunteers who might still need it. And just as a little side note, all of the volunteer information that we currently have in this system will be transferred over to Better Impact. So that includes, like Carrie was saying, all of your one-off, one-time or recurring shifts, your historical hours, your trainings, your applications, all of that will be transferred over to the new system. And this is just with the goal of making this transition as seamless as possible for everyone, including our stakeholders, internal and external volunteers and admins for departments. And then finally, no, that's it. Yes. Yeah.
I know some people didn't get the email yesterday. My dog walking partner didn't get it, so I forwarded to her. So what should they do? Because if they didn't get that email, they'll probably not get that one with instructions. So should they reach out to somebody?
Yeah, most definitely, please.
To me. Oh, okay.
Yes, yes, and we'll make sure to forward that information as well.
They can email the volunteer email address.
Yes.
Volunteer certificates.com.
Okay.
And that might just have been based on the filtering that we used for the email. Doesn't mean that they're not in our system or anything.
Or if they changed email addresses, it didn't update it with us.
That's true.
And then who was it?
Peggy Klaus.
Oh, and Peggy's on my list. Yeah.
Okay, like maybe it went to spam.
Maybe, yes, that's also one thing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I might
gotcha.
have thought of that.
Yeah. That's also a thing to
I
consider.
know several people on Slack, but the other people on Slack said they didn't get
Okay.
it. Yeah.
That's it. That's all we have.
That's
Great. Thank you.
Any questions?
I have one, as I mentioned, what is the Legacy Foundation planning to do to help us build the shelter?
No, that's not necessarily on the associated with this topic.
Okay.
So we would need to, questions are more addressed to what's on the agenda for today. But we can,
Okay.
but I can touch base with you.
Sorry. Sorry about that. I'll keep eating.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Yes.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.